Well, if you've had any problem with the first 3 units of this material, you can breathe a little sigh of relief because we're now up to the 2 units that most students find the easiest in the course, Unit 4 and 5. Today we'll be looking at Unit 4, whose subject is categorical propositions. We'll be looking at the basic properties of categorical propositions. A categorical proposition, you'll remember, is a statement that relates to categories by saying either that a certain class belongs to another class, or certain members of one class belong to the other class, or fail to belong to that other class. In the first part of the Unit 4 test, you'll have to identify the different basic parts of categorical propositions, their subject term, their predicate term, the copula or connective, which is either is or is not or are not, and the quantifier, that word at the beginning of each sentence, all, some, or no, that tells you, in effect, how many of the subject term members you are speaking about. So let's go to number 1. In the following categorical propositions, again, you have to identify the quantifier, the subject, the copula, and the predicate term by circling the words and appropriately marking the circles with Q, S, C, and P. Some Americans are players of baseball. Well, the subject term here is Americans, and the predicate term is players of baseball. Notice that a term need not be just a single word, it can be a whole phrase. The term is composed of whatever phrase, single term or not, which refers to the given category. And are is the copula, so we have subject here, predicate here, are is the copula, and some is the quantifier. Okay, so this sentence tells us about some members of the category Americans, and it predicates those Americans to the other category, players of baseball. Alrighty, number 2. All politicians are smooth talkers. Here again we've got the subject term, politicians, the predicate term, smooth talkers. The copula in this sentence again is are, and the quantifier all. And this sentence talks about every politician and says that each of those politicians are smooth talkers. All right, number 3. Some ditch diggers are not rich women. Ditch diggers is the subject term. Rich women is the predicate term. Here the copula is the negative, are not. Right? The are not connects the subject, ditch diggers, to the predicate term, rich women. And once more, the quantifier is some, and the sentence then tells us only about some of the members of the category ditch diggers. And one more of this type of question, number 4. No lovers of Renaissance art are people who appreciate Cubism. Notice that in this one we've got quite long phrases for the terms. The subject term is not Renaissance art, but lovers of Renaissance art. The predicate term is people who appreciate Cubism. Right? That whole thing, because it takes that entire phrase to identify the category. Again, we've got a copula here, which is are, and the quantifier, the negative, universal quantifier, no. So this kind of sentence denies of every lover of Renaissance art that they are a member of the category or class of people who appreciate Cubism. Now, categorical propositions have some other properties too, and the remainder of the test focuses on these. First, every categorical proposition is given a letter name. It's an A, an E, an I, or an O sentence. The way to remember this, or a little rule of thumb to help you to remember this, is just think of the first four vowels, A, E, I, and O. A and E, then, the first two, refer to the universal propositions. A refers to any sentence that begins with all. E refers to any sentence that begins with no. And the last two, I and O, refer to the particular sentences. The I referring to a existential statement that begins with some, and the O referring to the existential statement some are not. So that's the letter name of the proposition. Also, we have to worry about their quantity. The quantity of a proposition is the property of its being either universal in nature or particular. A statement is universal if it is telling us something about the entire class that's referred to by the subject term. So, for example, all S are P would be an A sentence, and it's a universal sentence in quantity because it says something universally about all S. Particular propositions always make an existential claim. That is, they are talking about one or more individual or particular members of the set. So if I say some S are P, I'm saying that there exists at least one S which is part of the category P. So quantity, again, is either universal or particular. The quality of a categorical proposition is either affirmative or negative, and this depends upon whether the statement is affirming the membership of the subject term in the category of the predicate, or whether it's denying such membership. Affirmative or negative, yes or no. And finally, there is the property of distribution. We'll be looking at this carefully in the particular questions. Distribution is a property that applies both to the subject term and also to the predicate term of each categorical proposition. And it has to do with whether the certain statement tells us something about the entire class of objects that are referred to by either the subject or the predicate term, in which case we say the term is distributed. If it doesn't tell us something about the entire class, then we say that term fails to be distributed in that kind of proposition. So let's see how this works with some examples. For each of the following categorical propositions, identify the letter name, the quantity, the quality, and whether the subject or the predicate or both are distributed. All students are hard workers. The letter name of this statement is an A, because remember, A refers to any categorical proposition that begins with all. What about the quality? Is this a affirmative statement, or is it a negative statement? Well, it is a positive or affirmative statement because it's claiming that all students are members of the category hard workers. So it affirms the membership of the subject, students, in the class hard workers. What about quantity? The quantity here is universal because an all sentence or an A sentence says something about every member of the subject set or the subject category students. Now, since it does say something about every student, the entire class of students, the subject term is distributed. So the answer to that is yes. But does this sentence tell us anything about the entire class of hard workers? No, it doesn't distribute the predicate term because it simply says that all of the students are members of the class of hard workers. It doesn't tell us that the class of hard workers may not have other members about which the sentence says nothing. So this predicate term is not distributed here. All right, let's do another. 6. No farmers are lovers of sheep. The letter name for a sentence that begins with no is E. One way to remember these, of course, is to remember the two Latin words, nego and affirmo. I'll write these here. Nego and affirmo, notice the vowels in nego, which refers to the negative sentences, are E and O. The universal negative sentence, no SRP, is an E sentence. The particular negative sentence is an O sentence. Some S are not P. The affirmative sentences, the first two vowels in affirmo are A and I. So the universal affirmative sentence, all S are P, is an A. The particular affirmative sentence, some S are P, is an I. So if we look at this little rule of thumb here, we can see that the right answer for no farmers are lovers of sheep is E. What about the quality? Well, as we just said, this is negative in quality because it denies membership in the class of lovers of sheep to farmers. The quality is universal because it does say something about all farmers. It says that they are not part of the class of lovers of sheep. That fact tells us that the subject term, farmers, is distributed, right? We have said something in this sentence about all farmers, namely that they are not members of the class lovers of sheep. What about the predicate term? In this case, the predicate term also is distributed because if no farmers are lovers of sheep, then we know that the entire class of lovers of sheep is distinct from the class of farmers. So we have a sentence which tells us something about the entire class of farmers, the subject term, something also about the entire class of lovers of sheep, and therefore both terms, subject and predicate, are distributed. Okay, a couple of more. Some golfers are not drivers, not good drivers. We want the letter name of this sentence. You look at the sentence, you see that it is of the form some S are not P. And remember, since it's negative, we want to think about the word nego, and we come up with the answer O, because that's the second vowel in the term nego. So this is an O sentence whose quality is negative and whose quantity is particular, because remember, any sentence that begins with some, no matter whether it says some S are P or some S are not P, any sentence that begins with some is telling us something about a particular existing subject, or S. And what about the subject term being distributed or not? Well, notice, as I just said, only some golfers are being referred to here in this sentence, so we don't have a claim about the entire class of golfers. And now what about the predicate term? This one is tricky. People often get this one wrong. The right answer here is yes, the predicate term is distributed in an O sentence. And the reason is that the sentence basically says that the entire class of good drivers is distinct from those particular golfers. Therefore, the whole predicate class is being talked about, and therefore the term is distributed. All right, one last one. Some hairy creatures are not intelligent. What is the name of this sentence? Well, notice it's just like the last one. Some S are not P, and so the answer is that this is an O sentence. Its quality, since it has the not, is negative. And its quantity, since it is an existential claim, not a universal claim, is particular. Right? It claims only that some hairy creatures exist which are not intelligent. Does it distribute the subject term? No, because it talks only about some hairy creatures. Does it distribute the predicate term? Yes, because it says the entire class of intelligent people is distinct from hairy creatures. This test has a few additional questions that have to do with changing either the quality or the quantity of a categorical proposition, or sometimes changing both. In number 9, some soldiers are cowards, we're asked to change the quality but not the quantity of the statement. Well, the quality of the statement here is affirmative. It's claiming that some soldiers are a member of the class of cowards. So if it's affirmative and we need to change it, we have to change to a negative. That would mean that we would need either a sentence no S or P, that's negative, or some S are not P. Well, the rest of the problem is to maintain the quantity of the sentence. So if we maintain the quantity, we must keep it a particular sentence, and that means that the right answer would be some soldiers are not cowards. Right? There we've changed from affirmative to negative, but we've kept with a particular sentence. And the last question on the test requires that you change both the quality and quantity of the statement, no dogs are cats. Well, to change the quality of the statement, we have to go from what is obviously a negative claim to a positive or affirmative claim. That would mean we'd either have an A sentence or an I sentence. We also need to change the quantity, so we'd have to move from universal to a particular. So we need a particular affirmative sentence. That, remember, is some dogs, some S, are cats. Here we've gone from negative to positive. We've affirming that some S are P, and we've gone from universal to a particular or existential claim. So some S are P is the right answer. Okay, I told you Unit 4 was not all that hard, and if you've found it as easy as I hope, you'll be ready for Unit 5 in a day. See you then.